Y'all, that sounded
Check the tuning into
amazing.
that.
Ronnie, got to talk about your voice.
I'm fine, really. No problem.
I got to tell you, I listened to the new album over and over again. It's not out till Friday. It'll be out. And I lived with your voice, just aside from all the great music. But you really, to come in on this band and sing lead vocals is like another as important as any of the instruments here. Tell me what it feels like to be singing now with Kansas. I mean, how amazing. Here, I'm going to move back here. I feel so weird.
All right. It's really surreal to me. I mean, 2.5 years ago, I was driving an 18-wheeler around the streets of Chicago.
Is that crazy?
So,
You were a
just
musician, though, right? You'd been singing in a
absolutely.
band.
I've been singing probably since I was 8, 9 years old. But got into Shooting Star, and that's how I really connected with Rich and Phil.
That was a great band, Shooting Stars.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Anybody know Shooting Star here? One guy.
Last
one
Chance. Oh my God, that song
write
is one of
him
the
a
best
check.
songs ever. But really and truly, your vocals just soar, and I've just got to tell you, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And it's got to be a trip for the newer guys, like David Mannion. I've been around you for a long time, and you played with a lot of bands. Remember the Charlie Magruder days? And Charlie Magruder's anybody? So Dave and I used to.
Served you guys a bunch of drinks.
Billy was there too. Yes. But telling me what it feels like for you now to be with such a prolific and amazing band that we all, it's part of our history really with rock and roll.
He's a really good bartender. Well, I got three things. It's a whole lot of work. I wouldn't change a dang thing, and it's completely amazing.
I love hearing that. I love that. And you're so good. You just sound great. I've got to ask, there's an Atlanta connection here. Rich, how did Atlanta become a second home for Kansas?
Well, we started playing Alex Cooley's, and we loved the town. It was such an incredible music experience at that time. And then the women, actually. A lot of first wives were found there.
Oh, the Kansas First Wives Club, huh?
First Wives Club.
Right. But you and Phil both still live in Atlanta, correct? Dave, does anybody else? You do too? All right, David, that's cool. David, tell me about, I heard that you kind of chased the band around for a little while there. The 80s, remember when they...
It was longer than a little while.
Okay, tell me. I want to hear.
Well, the album Power came out with no violin player and Steve Morse. So you have Steve Morse of the Dixie Dregs, violin.
Now with Deep Purple.
Kansas violin band. I could hear the parts. I mean, they weren't there, but I could hear them. And a friend of mine said, "Well, why don't you just take those parts that you hear, get your little 4-track tape player out, put Kansas on 2 tracks, put you on 2 tracks, and put the parts down and get it to them." And that's what I did.
Can you believe that? Who did you get it to?
Ultimately ended up in Phil's hands. I sent out 80 of them, I guess. I just anyone who had, if there was any remote possibility that it might end up where I wanted it to.
I'm sorry, you go right ahead and just continue. I guess we need to get another mic.
You're a word you said.
I know, I should be using this, I guess, but I didn't realize that.
So it's okay. If there was a remote possibility that I could get it into the proper hands, I'd give it to them.
That goes to show you. I mean, that seriously goes to show you that if you want to achieve your dreams, you go after it and hard and for a long time.
For a while.
Yeah. How many years?
4 years.
That's impressive.
Almost to the day that I cut those parts. It was almost exactly 4 years.
And after 80 cassette tapes, Phil couldn't see beyond his desk anymore.
And you notice we're saying cassettes, right?
They all got to him on the same day. I was like, who is this guy?
We are saying cassettes. Billy Greer, my dear old friend.
Kaedy, I love you so
Oh,
much.
sorry, I love you, and I miss seeing you. Tell me, only because he's one of my favorite guitarists, besides Rich, tell me what it was like to come into the band around the same time that Steve Morse comes into the band.
Oh my gosh, it was so intimidating. It's just one of those things, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but you're leaning back in a chair and you almost fall, but you catch yourself. It was like that all the time. I'm serious. It really was.
Was it?
It's just, here's the best guitar player in the whole world. and you're playing with him, and you're so intimidating.
You are referring to Rich.
Yes.
Rich. Well, Morris had been voted that in Guitar Player magazine like four years in a row.
You know who Steve Morris
and
is,
I think
correct?
Rich and I both had a little case of, oh boy, what do we got? You know, but then we asked Morris to sing some backup parts. Now I've always been very confident in my vocal, parts of my vocal ability. But we asked him, and then I saw some insecurity in him trying to sing backing vocals, and that kind of leveled the playing field.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And I was able to relax a little bit, and then just go to school, the Morris School of Technology. So
Amazing. And I love
amazing
that time
player.
when you guys were all together with
Yeah.
him too. Not too many outside people brought in like that
Mm.
don't stay on, and so that was a fun time. Phil, tell me how important it is. I realize that the vocals, the people that share vocals, their voices are incredible. Tell me what that means when you guys are trying to put together or bring in some new people.
As far as singing lead, you mean, or
Singing the harmonies.
the harmonies? Well, Kansas, it's interesting. The early band, the original band, only really had two singers, had Steve and Robbie, and we didn't really have a third voice. So as the band has progressed, of course, adding Billy and adding David, and now having Zach, and everybody able to sing. We never could have done anything like this because we didn't have enough voices to even sing anything, of this magnitude. So it means a lot, and it opens a lot of doors for us to do all kinds of vocals. And not only are they just vocals, they're great vocals. So it means a lot to us to have these guys, their ability to sing.
I agree. It sounds phenomenal. Okay, Zach, your turn.
Oh, God.
You know what? Y'all, it has been like 15, 16 years since Kansas has done new music. And so, Zach, sorry, David. Zach, tell me about, there were some songs. Now, you're an engineer, producer, guitarist, obviously, but a songwriter. And so, when you had worked with Kansas a few years ago, you wrote some songs that they weren't ready at the time really to record because they weren't into doing new music at the time. Is that right?
Well, it actually goes a lot further back than that. It was around 2001. I got the idea that I should be in Kansas. So I somehow
It worked for me.
it worked for you, and it worked for
There's
Rags
more
too. It
right
worked
here
for-
also.
So I managed to get a hold of Phil, and he wound up calling me back, and we talked for like a half hour. This is back in 2001, and I said, "Would you mind if I sent you some material?" So that's when I first started sending Phil material. It was back in 2001, and a few of those songs actually are on this record. Reworked by the band, but it's been sitting around for a long, long time.
It must be so exciting for you guys to have new music to be performing. I know that it's got to be because you're so used to playing certain songs over and over again, and to make that new every performance, it's got to be pretty tough, you can imagine. So tell me, this brings back, now it's 40 years since Left Overture, so you're going to go out and you're going to play this Left Overture in its entirety, and then you're going to introduce some of this new music. Rich, why don't you tell me a little bit about what it's been like to be in the studio recording new music with the new blood here?
Well, it was 16 years ago we did an album, and we've been kind of treading water ever since creatively. Going out and performing is great. That's always fun, but when you're not scratching that itch to be creative, something is always missing, and we just didn't have, things just weren't right at that time. But once we got this lineup together, suddenly we did a bunch of shows. We did 94 shows last year, and it was time to record. We just knew that this band was going to be able to create. We didn't know what it was going to be, but we knew we wanted it to be up to par of whatever we had done in the past, honoring our legacy, and not trying to be something different either. It just kind of knew what we are. That was what the goal was, to be ourselves, but just a lot better at it than we've been in a long time. And so to get this group of guys, everybody focused on the same goal, was a tremendous experience. Frightening at first because we don't know what we're going to do, but we know we're going to come to the end of that road eventually, and it'll be done. And we did. And
that's what's
we are
amazing.
so happy with the outcome of this album. It's the best thing we've done in decades.
It's beautiful. It's really great.
The amazing thing is Phil and Rich's desire to still want to put out new music, because talk about a band that has an incredible, enriched library of music. I always said in all my interviews, I say, there's no way I can ever write the set list for our show, because our show would be 6 hours long then. Because I'd be going album to album going, oh, there's no way we're not playing this one, we're not playing this one. So for Phil and Rich to still want to have a desire to add to that library of music is really the amazing thing here.
And you brought a lot of the lyrics to it, correct?
Yeah.
And music, so everybody was involved in the process. That's pretty unusual. That's pretty great. And now we're going to hear a song. Who would like to talk about? This is going to be from the Prelude Implicit, which is due out Friday. What's the song, and who wants to introduce it?
No, this will be Dust.
Oh, this is Dust. We're going to play a new one. See, I got the wrong order of things.
We're going to do
Then
an
let's-
oldie and then a newie.
Okay, so then, would you like to be on the radio too? That sounds like an old DJ. Anything you'd like to say about Dust as to introduce it, or shall we just play it and then we could talk about it afterwards? Needs no introduction. It doesn't need any introduction.